For millennia, humanity has looked to the heavens and wondered about our origins, about the forces that shaped our destiny. Mainstream history gives us one narrative, but ancient scriptures, apocryphal texts, and persistent legend tells a different, far stranger story. A story of divine beings descended from the skies, of forbidden unions, of giant offspring, and a spiritual conflict that continues to this day. What if the myths aren't just myths? What if the giants of legend were real? And what if their bloodlines never truly disappeared?
This is Cryptic Accounts. By paranoid people, for paranoid people. Cryptic Accounts.
Welcome to Cryptic Accounts, a podcast by paranoid people for paranoid people. I'm Patrick Ryan. We're experimenting with a new setup, and I'm just going to go ahead and say hi to Dennis because we're right here.
What's up, buddy?
Hey,
Our third studio in 2 months.
dude.
We're rich.
Yeah, that's what's happening.
That's what's happening.
That's definitely what's happening. Thank you all so much for listening. We appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe, do all those things. If you're listening, go find us on TikTok and Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. If you're watching on YouTube, do the same. Helps us out more than you could know. And we really appreciate it. Like, as you know, like this kind of content, like, doesn't necessarily get promoted real heavily in a lot of places. It's kind of word of mouth and just raw views that get it to kind of push forward. So more than anything, that would help us. If you want to support the show, you can go to crypticaccounts.com and there's a support the show button. You can go there. You can donate with a card. We also accept cryptocurrencies. So that would be very helpful as well. But more than anything, just sharing and liking and following helps us more than anything. And also, there's something I don't even. Should I talk about it yet?
No, there's a secret super surprise for the future.
There is a secret. You're right. I shouldn't.
Save it for the future.
I'll save it for the future. There is something very new that will involve all of you a lot more coming very soon, though. As soon as I finish working all of it out.
Is it a cruise?
Yeah, we're doing a cryptic.
Oh, we should do a cruise someday. Oh, dude, now I say that as a joke, but that would be sick.
Pack your swimsuit, your tinfoil hat.
Live on a boat for a week?
It's a Faraday boat.
Oh, yeah.
No cell signals, in or out.
We're going to the Bermuda Triangle.
No. No. Oh, man.
I'm excited to... What do you got this week? What do you got? I'm kind of in the dark this week. I'm usually not.
I mean, I've teased some of the episodes, but you don't know which one I'm necessarily going to do.
Roulette.
I've been teasing you with a few of them. I mean, you got a little hint. I think you have an idea by the teaser at the beginning.
Yeah.
What we're going to talk about. But I'll get right into it. Today, we're venturing into territory that lies at the very foundation of human history, mythology, and perhaps even our very own DNA, Dennis. We're talking about Nephilim, the
Ooh.
Watchers, the mighty men of old. Figures whispered about in ancient texts, beings whose legacy might still echo in the corridors of power to this very day.
Ooh.
So this is something we've talked about before. We've done an episode on this, and I'm going to touch on some of that again to kind of bring everything back up to date. But there's some new twists that I don't think we thought about in earlier times that we've talked about Nephilim and Watchers.
I've learned some things that might be of interest later.
Okay.
Depending on what you get into.
I'm about to get into a lot.
I learned one very specific thing. I'm starting to come around on giants.
I thought you were already on board.
I mean, it's always been a possibility. And I mean like recent giants.
Oh, okay. I was like,
giants like
I was like, I thought we agreed.
Goliath.
They
yeah.
definitely existed.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And the Smithsonian has been trying to hide them for over 100 years.
Yes, the Smithsonian thing. Actually, I have a piece of information about them that I learned that I'll get into later.
We did an episode. I think you did the research on that episode.
Yeah, there's something new.
That was like 4 years ago, so
that was 4 years ago.
Don't feel bad. That was a good episode, though. I actually went back through it. I'm only like, oh yeah, you remember that one? It's because I went back and listened to it again because I knew we were going to talk about this. So our journey begins, as so many do on Cryptic Accounts, in the cryptic verses of the Book of Genesis. Specifically, and I know you're going to follow me on this, chapter 6, verses 1 through 4. Now, this is a passage that has baffled theologians and ignited imagination for centuries now.
Oh yeah.
So it reads, so this is Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 through 4. When man began to multiply on the face of the land, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of man were very attractive, and they took as their wives any they chose. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days. Were the Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came into the daughters of man, and they bore children to them. They were the mighty men who were of old, the men of renown.
Hmm. Yeah, it's very cryptic.
It is, and it's. I mean, it's always weird to think like that's so early in the Bible.
I know there's a lot of stuff like the Tower of Babel and stuff that it's like that is so early.
So I've gone back and read about the Tower of Babel as an adult. Did that seem like a lot longer story when you were a kid learning about it?
Oh,
Like we had
it's like
cartoons
4
about it.
sentences or something.
It is like 4 or 5 sentences.
Yeah.
It's
And
extremely short.
that again, that right there.
Yes.
These are 2 epic stories that
That-
are like a paragraph.
Yes.
And it's just like, oh, by the way, there were giants, and we made a big tower and scattered the whole world. It's like that seems like a huge, huge detail to just gloss over.
Look, Moses had a lot of stuff to write
That's
about.
true.
He
but-
was covering a lot of ground. And he was like, yeah, giants, blah, 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 tower. Everybody speaks different languages now. Anyway, about my stuff.
That's true. About Noah.
That is true. I mean, he does spend a fair amount of time on Noah, but a lot of time on his own stuff.
Yeah.
Which, okay.
I
get
had always been taught back in the day that this was an incorporation of things like Hercules, demigods, kind of.
Oh, we're going to get to that.
Oh, okay.
No. You're not stepping on my toes at all.
Okay,
you,
good.
You can expound on that.
That was probably the best explanation the oldest best explanation I had heard.
But yeah, it does seem like a lot of this biblical stuff that gets touched on very briefly, other societies talked about it in more detail and made mythology about it.
Yeah, like the men of renown would be like Hercules or like Achilles or other
Gilgamesh,
other like demigods.
Yeah.
And then this is just setting the record straight, kind of, that their parents weren't gods. They were like some form of fallen angel.
Well, I don't want to get too far off into the weeds, but I mean, we did a whole episode, I think at least one, maybe 2 on the Book of Enoch, which I'm going to draw from some of that. Like, we're getting back into all that, and as we're going to be more focused on it instead of covering more of the whole book.
Okay.
But I would argue this stuff was explained further. The Catholic Church just decided not to put that in the canon.
But Enoch, yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Now, the Ethiopian Bible actually does.
I noticed on your coffee table, you have an Ethiopian Bible.
Yes. Well, it's got all the Apocrypha in it.
Yeah.
And I'm curious.
It's interesting, yeah.
Don't come at me, please. I'm just reading.
He's reading.
I'm just reading.
Let a guy read.
For the knowledge. I'm not changing any views harshly in any direction.
You don't think the church fathers read that stuff? They had to read it before they put it in the Bible or not?
Well, there's that, but also the Ethiopian Bible, and I'm almost hesitant to speak on it because I don't have I didn't go on to a full side thing on this.
Did you tell me the other day they formed their own canon sooner than the Western?
I believe so.
Okay.
If I remember right. Because I did I've looked into it off and on, and at some point I may do I don't know how long of an episode it would be, but I may do an episode on that.
That's interesting.
And I kind of wonder, and I don't have anything to back this up, so again, please leave a comment.
A little bit of grace.
Be nice. If you know more about this, there might be a place you can talk about this soon. But the comment section is fine for now. But I mean, you have the Ethiopian eunuch who gets evangelized in the Book of Acts that then runs off and potentially takes all this with him.
Interesting.
Which is where I think a lot of this spurs off from.
Interesting.
Like, because, he has an apostle who baptized him, runs up next to his chariot. Like, he would think he was reading Solomon. And he's like, how can I understand this?
There had to be some discussion of this in the first century because in Revelation, it says the end times will be like the days of Noah.
Yes.
which is what this is describing.
Yes.
So there had to have been some discussion about what this means. They had to have a deeper.
Well, this isn't the only place that I'm going to teaser.
I think I'm going to let you go. Yeah.
We're going to get into it a little bit more. This is not the only place the Bible refers to all of this.
Okay.
Like, they come up again.
Nephilim or whatever.
There's I got it in my notes.
Okay.
Let me. So to get us back on track, sons of God, daughters of man, Nephilim, mighty men of old. What does it even mean? Who are these sons of God, and who or what were the Nephilim? So a little context. So the most ancient and persistent interpretation, one heavily supported by text written by the final canon of the Bible, was even before it was even decided, identifies these sons of God, the Bene Aholim in Hebrew, not as human kings or descendants of Seth, as some later interpretations suggest, but angels, fallen angels, to be more precise.
Okay.
Which I think, and I know there is debate about this, but I think most scholars, theologians agree that's where these Nephilim are coming from. These sons of God are the fallen angels.
That's what I've always heard.
That's what I've heard too. And I know there's some dissent within that, and some other people don't necessarily think that, but I think the vast majority of people agree that does seem to be, because that's the only place where sons of God is used as a reference point. Every time man is talked about, it's sons of men. Sons of God doesn't really get used anywhere.
Except for Jesus.
He called himself the Son of Man as well.
Right. Well, yeah. I guess I'll throw it out there. If like a lot of the, what's his name? Ken Ham? Who's the other guy that we watch? There's a young Earth creationist. He talks about how like dinosaurs look just like regular lizards, but they're super big because there's a super oxygen rich environment.
Yes, and reptiles will keep growing.
I probably watched like 50 hours of this dude. I'm blanking on his name.
It's not Ken Ham though.
But
Is it?
No, Ken Ham's the Noah Museum guy, I think.
Yes.
Why can't I remember this? But anyway.
Well, and you're usually who brings it up in conversation, so this is kind of on you.
He talks about how prior to the flood, when all the water came down, we would have had a super oxygen-rich environment that allowed all these mega creatures. So, like, I've seen stuff where they talk about how Adam could have been 10 feet tall.
At a minimum.
Yeah, at a minimum.
I saw a thing today, actually, or the other day when I was looking at this, where like Adam's hand was probably it was like this big. Somebody had made like a recreation. Like he was.
I think I saw that too.
His hand was probably this big, which made him this tall. And I'm blanking. I should have put it in the notes on like why they think that.
But to play like devil's advocate, I could see an interpretation where you would call the people pre-flood possibly son of God because they were so close to the Garden of Eden.
Yes.
And they would be just giant dudes who did insane things like build the pyramids and pick up trees and whatever. And I could see
I might do a giant trees episode.
Yeah. I would be open to the interpretation that possibly they're just talking about what people were like.
Maybe.
But I don't think that's it. I think the most accepted interpretation is that these are a hybrid race.
Yes.
Of human women. It's almost weird too, because what does it say? Read it again. What does it say about women? What does it call women? It calls them sons of God, but then what are the women called? The daughters of men, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why would you make that distinction? You're clearly talking about a hybrid race. You're talking about sons from one race and daughters from another race.
Yeah, daughters of man.
So I think we're in the solid here to say that these are,
it's something
at the
else
very least, an alien or something.
Well, and we could get into, and I didn't go into breaking out an expository dictionary and stuff to like look up words, because I've referenced this before.
Remember our episode on the Zachariah Sitchins?
Yes.
It was one of our last ones. That one was about hybrids between the aliens, the Anunnaki, and the people. Anyway, I'm going to let you go.
So to truly understand this, we have to look beyond Genesis to texts that were once widely read and revered, but later excluded from many biblical canons. Texts like the Book of Enoch. The Book of Enoch, particularly the section known as the Book of the Watchers, doesn't just mention this event, but it blows the story wide open. It names names. It tells us that a group of angels, led by one named Semiaza, looked down from heaven, lusted after human women, and made a pact. 200 of them descended onto Mount Hermon, swore an oath, and took human wives. Fun side note, in the Paramount logo, you know what mountain that is that all those stars are flying over?
No way.
It's Mount Hermon.
Is that the mountain where they use as like the allegory where Satan fell from?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Fascinating.
Yep.
Are the stars supposed to be the fallen angels? Are the angels?
I forget how many of them there are, but there are that many, whatever the number is, and I should have put it in the
like
notes.
Consorts or something?
Those are the main ones that are named there's that many named in the Book of Enoch. It's like 17 or 20 or something like that. It's a weird coincidence.
Yeah.
Which I should have put that in here. I'm sorry I didn't.
Isn't it weird there's like real mountains attached to that?
Yeah, it's almost like it's real.
Yeah. But it's also like, that means there was a time where like a person could look at a mountain and like, yeah, I don't know.
So Enoch tells us, quote, "And they took wives for themselves, and everyone chose for himself one each. And they began to go into them, and were promiscuous with them. And they taught them charms and spells, and showed them the cutting of roots and trees. And Azazel taught men to make swords and daggers and shields, and made known to them the metals of the earth and the art of working them." Think about that. These weren't just casual encounters. This was a deliberate transgression, a rebellion. These angels, the Watchers, didn't just break divine law by mating with humans. They actively corrupted humanity by teaching forbidden knowledge. Warfare, sorcery, astrology, even vanity through cosmetics. They unleashed secrets that humanity wasn't ready for, accelerating our path towards violence and corruption. So, in the offspring of these unions, the children born from angels and humans, Genesis calls them the Nephilim. The Book of Enoch describes them in terrifying detail. They weren't just mighty, they were giants. Enoch claims they grew to immense sizes. Some interpretations of the text suggest heights reaching hundreds of cubits, though these numbers are likely symbolic of their immense power and unnatural status. And as we get into things a little bit further and I pull a little bit more Bible verses, I don't know that may be symbolic at all. And let me get to it. So these weren't just tall men, they were monstrous hybrids. Enoch continues. As they bore large giants and the giants turned against them, talking about the humans, in order to devour them, they began to sin against birds and against animals and against reptiles and against fish, and they devoured one another's flesh and drank the blood from it.
They sinned against birds.
I don't know what that means.
That's somehow very disturbing to me. I don't know what
they were.
What are you doing to the birds?
Some Arkansas stuff, I guess.
Penguins.
I don't know. Cannibalism, violence, consuming all resources. The Nephilim were a plague upon the earth, a perversion of creation. They were the mighty men of old, the men of renown, mentioned in Genesis, but their renown was one of terror and destruction. Think of the heroes of Greek mythology, Hercules, Gilgamesh, powerful semi-divine figures often associated with great violence and hubris. Could these myths be distorted echoes of the Nephilim? The corruption became so great, the violence so pervasive, that according to these texts, it was the primary reason for God sending the Great Flood. The flood wasn't just about human wickedness, it was an attempt to cleanse the earth of its unnatural, corrupted hybrid race and the influence of the fallen Watchers. According to Enoch, and significantly referenced in the New Testament books of Jude and 2nd Peter, the lead Watchers didn't just get a slap on the wrist, they were imprisoned.
Under the ground.
Yep.
Which I think in other mythologies is what happened to the Titans.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So Jude verse 6 says, God has kept, quote, the angels who did not stay within their own position of authority, but left their proper dwelling in eternal change under gloomy darkness until the judgment of the great day. 2 Peter 2:4 is even more specific, using a unique word. For if God did not spare the angels when they sinned, but cast them into Tartarus, and committed them to chains of gloomy darkness to be kept until the judgment. So Tartarus, that word is loaded. In Greek mythology, Tartarus wasn't just the general underworld like Hades. It was the deepest, darkest abyss below Hades. A primordial void used as a prison for the most dangerous entities. Like you were saying,
It's a prison.
the Titans,
Hmm.
the enemies of the Olympian gods.
So that just tells you that if multiple cultures have the story, it's probably based on something. Something happened.
That does seem to be the conclusion, I mean, that we always come to on the shows. Like when there's multiple different groups of people that are all saying the same thing in slightly different ways, there's probably something going
Yeah,
on.
all these ancient cultures being like, oh yeah, these people came out of the sky and made hybrids, and then they got locked in the middle of the earth. Like that's such a weird thing for all these people to just make up independently. Like
Yeah. Yeah, there was no internet. There was no way that they would have been reading each other's writings. Like,
even if they were like to accept that and
yeah,
be like, yeah, you're right, that's what happened.
that's definitely what happened.
Yeah.
So, Tartarus was a place of torment and confinement, as far below the earth as the heavens are above it. Now, when Peter, who was writing to the Hellenistic audience familiar with Greek concepts, uses the specific term Tartarus, he's painting a picture of ultimate divine imprisonment for those specific fallen angels, the Watchers, who committed this unique sin of corrupting human flesh. So the ringleaders, the original 200 who descended on Mount Hermon, are locked away in this abysmal prison, this Tartarus, awaiting final judgment. They are bound, removed from direct interaction within the world, but this imprisonment itself raises questions. Are the chains literal or spiritual? Is Tartarus a physical place deep within the earth, or a state of profound spiritual separation and darkness? And crucially, if the Watchers are bound, what about their offspring?
Ooh. I want to say it's real, like physical, because they're capable of making offspring.
But you also have these things that they created that they're not humans. So would they have the same kind of soul?
I would assume not.
That's kind of where I go with it.
Yeah.
And did the flood truly wipe out the Nephilim? So Genesis 6:4 contains that crucial phrase, the Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterwards. Afterwards.
That's your answer.
After the flood? Fast forward to the book of Numbers, chapter 13.
Bro.
The Israelites have escaped Egypt and are sending spies into the promised land,
Oh yeah, we're like grasshoppers.
the land of Canaan. 10 of the 12 spies come back terrified. Why? Because in verse
I
33,
would be too if I saw a giant.
and quote, and there we saw Nephilim, the sons of Anak, who came from the Nephilim, and we seemed to ourselves like grasshoppers, and so we seemed to them.
Oh.
The Anakim, descendants of Anak, explicitly linked to the Nephilim, are in Canaan after the flood. Now, how is that possible? Did some Nephilim or their genetic material survive the deluge? Perhaps through Noah's family line,
Hmm.
specifically Ham's wife. And I know you're going to go, well, how do you know Ham's wife? Well, from Ham's wife came the Canaanites.
Ew. So it's more or less just stated. Was
Yes,
she pregnant on the boat?
not that we know of.
Okay.
But we do know that that's where the Canaanites come from. Another consideration and possibility is the biblical Nimrod, who is a descendant of Ham as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a lot of people think he might have been Sumerian king Gilgamesh.
I've heard this. And in fact, we might do a future show on this because I bought a book the other day on ancient Iraq.
Interesting.
And I've started digging into it a little bit.
That, I
I've
hope
been
you
on a
bring that research.
weird Gilgamesh kick, but I don't have a lot of information. I don't have a lot of information to spill right now. I'd
No,
kind of be talking on my butt because I just started it. But
yeah.
yeah.
So there's people that also think that he was genetically Nephilim,
Yeah.
and that's how he was what he was.
Every ancient culture, I mean the main ones, say their kings come from hybrid.
hmm
They just say it.
hmm That might still be
So
going on today.
yeah.
I mean,
Oh
we're
no.
going to dig into that a little bit further too. Um, so the texts are unclear, but the implications are chilling. The giants, the hybrids, were not entirely eradicated. It doesn't seem like, because they show up even if you're just going biblical with it, and modern canon, they're there
Yeah.
in more than one place. The Old Testament is littered with references to giant clans in and around Canaan. The Rephaim, the Emim, the Zamzummim, the Anakim, figures like Og, king of Bashan, whose iron bed was reportedly over 13 feet long.
Wow.
And then, of course, the one we all know, Goliath the Philistine, champion slain by David, described as being over 9 feet tall in the most moderate
hmm
forms. Were these simply tall individuals, or were they remnants of these ancient corrupted bloodlines?
I would find it hard to believe that they're just tall. Because one, we kind of know what a cubit was.
We do.
We have all that info. Two, giantism. If you've ever seen somebody with giantism, they're weak.
Most of the time, yeah.
Most of the time, they are not strong individuals. You wouldn't pick that guy. Unless he's like your war elephant, like you kind of just want to scare people with him. You probably wouldn't pick him to fight for like the
Whole nation.
the whole nation. Yeah, you wouldn't be like, let's get the guy who can barely stand up for 20 minutes without passing out to go fight this battle. You would use him to scare people.
Yeah.
But unless he was a real giant who could really wear armor and really a real hybrid.
Well, all his organs were big enough to actually support this humongous
Yes.
body, because that was a lot of problem, I believe, with a lot of giantism is
Yeah, it's just like a hormone problem.
Yeah.
So unless you are a real something different, I doubt that you would just throw a person with gigantism out there and be like, "You're our champion."
yeah, go win it for us.
Yeah.
So this brings us back to the spirits of the Nephilim. What happened to them when they died? If they were hybrids, part human, part angelic, where did their spirits go? Again, the Book of Enoch offers a terrifying answer.
Oh no.
So, in 1st Enoch chapter 1:15, it states that the spirits of the dead giants would not ascend to heaven, nor be confined entirely like their angelic fathers. Instead, they were cursed to remain on earth as evil spirits. So Enoch 15:8-12, and this is a little bit paraphrased, but and now the giants who were produced from the spirits and flesh shall be called evil spirits upon the earth, and on the earth shall be their dwelling. Evil spirits have proceeded from their bodies, because they were born from men, and from the holy watchers is their beginning and primal origin. And the spirits of the giants afflict, oppress, destroy, attack, do battle, and work destruction on the earth and cause trouble. Let all that sink in for just a second. According to this ancient text, the disembodied spirits of the dead Nephilim are the demons that plague humanity. Is what I read into all that.
Interesting. What about just regular fallen angels? Where do they play into this?
Well, I mean,
Because these, if I'm understanding this, these are the spirits of the hybrids.
Yes.
Who were made between regular human women and fallen angels.
Well, according to the Book of Enoch, those original 200 are locked up in that place below Hades.
The original 200 witch
Fell.
Those
those original sons of God.
Okay.
They're locked in Tartarus.
Physically.
Yes.
And then but the spirits of their dead children
they don't get to go up, they don't get to go down.
Interesting.
They're bound to the earth. So that might actually be what the demons are that we hear about today. May not actually be these fallen angels at all.
But like the devil is still out.
Yes.
So some fallen angels are still out.
Well, we know what. Well, here's the thing, and that's a good point. This is 200 angels that
this
did
is just 200 that had a specific
third
scheme.
of heaven fell
So
in the rebellion.
Like billions and billions.
Well, I mean, Jesus talks about calling down legions.
Yeah.
And that's hundreds.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Like,
So there are fallen angels, but there's also the offspring,
there's this weird 200 that, like, we're going to go hook up with humans.
and their kids are also demons.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So,
See, this is giving me alien vibes.
exactly.
Yeah.
Especially going back to, oh man, I wish I remember the name of the episode. I should have pulled it for this. But the soul stealers, the ones that wanted to, like, they threatened to, like, clone people if and, like, tried to barter for their soul,
Mhm.
or they'd replace them and they'd, like, show them, like, their kids.
So you're
I think it was
basically
just soul something.
soul stealers or something.
It was something like that.
If
Man, I'm sorry.
I'll go
You got to
throw
watch all the old episodes now.
I'm gonna throw a name out there. I've been really into his stuff lately. Nathaniel Gillis. He was a demonologist. He does UFO stuff now. He thinks that that phenomenon is what he calls a group of ancient practitioners. So some kind of people who had advanced knowledge of magic, which is what you're describing with this Book of Enoch stuff. They
Mhm.
teach people stuff. And they would have advanced knowledge of technology. And their parents, well, their parents are locked up, but they would be like cousins with like other demons. So, like, but essentially, these are dead people in a way.
Kind of.
They're like dead hybrid people
They're hybrids.
that share something with us, but the other half they don't share with us.
But if anything, would it be craving a soul
Well,
that could be
he's
redeemed?
big into them, or just in general. I'll just switch off him, but like they would crave like a container, some way to be back, because unlike angels who are mostly spiritual, these things got a taste of physical
Yep.
lust, life, violence, sex, whatever, and they would crave moving back into bodies and
Yeah, because they were the creme de la creme when they were walking around.
yes. And so this is making me think about the hybrid program. It's making me think about how there's a big afterlife component to like UFOs, how they come out of mountains, they come out of what are they doing underground so often? Maybe they're trying to get down to mom and dad. Keep going.
So yeah, they're the source of spiritual oppression, temptation, and possession. Unlike fallen watchers who are bound in Tartarus, these spirits roam the earth, seeking to influence, corrupt, and inhabit human beings because they crave the physical existence they lost.
Mm-hmm.
Dennis did not look at this before we
Nailed
started
it.
this episode. I just want to say that
Yeah, I had no idea.
he really did not see
But
this
when
script at
all
all.
roads keep leading to the same path, what am I supposed to think, man? These aliens are like obsessed with like making bodies, swapping soul. Like all their technology goes towards trying to figure out a way to put themselves into something.
Yep. Yep. And this is where I know you're going to say, how could it get stranger? But it gets stranger because these aren't just passive spirits waiting for an opportunity. Ancient texts and occult tradition hints that their nature, being inherently unstable, chaotic, and changeable. Some researchers delve into obscure texts and interpretations, suggesting that these demonic spirits, born from a chaotic mix of angelic and human essence, possess abilities beyond simple influence. They speak of, and I practice this word, it's not going to go well. They speak of metaschismats zoetoia. Zatoya.
Okay. Noted.
Yes, it's a long word. It's a term implying that the transformation, a splitting or changing of form. Could these Nephilim spirits manifest illusions,
Mhm.
temporarily alter their appearance, maybe like a skinwalker, or even influence the physical form of those they possess?
Yes.
Think about accounts of demonic possession throughout history, stories of contorted bodies, unnatural strength, voices changing, even faces seeming to shift.
Knowing ancient languages.
I didn't have that one, but that's a good one.
I read an account the other day where somebody was speaking like Sumerian or something that nobody actually even knows.
Yep.
Like we just know it because we're like, oh, that's weird. That matches up perfectly with like,
Yep.
yeah. But they'd know it
And they would
if
know.
it's Nimrod.
Yep. Yep. While often attributed to psychological phenomenon, but how would you know Sumerian through a psychological phenomenon? Or simple demonic influence Could some of these extreme manifestations be linked to the specific hybrid nature of Nephilim spirits? Are they capable of a kind of spiritual shapeshifting, imposing their chaotic nature onto the physical world through a possessed host or through direct manifestation as terrifying apparitions?
Man.
Some traditions speak of demons appearing as animals, skinwalkers.
Well, they can inhabit animals. We know that from the demoniac story.
We know about that from the Gospels. I mean,
That's the
well,
story where
yeah,
he
the
takes it out of the guy and he puts him in the pigs.
pigs,
The
and then
Iron
they,
Legion. Yeah,
yep,
that's the demoniac story.
yep, the they them demons.
So they could just take over a wolf and go walking around.
Yep, or just become a wolf.
Yeah.
So they speak of appearing as animals, monstrous figures, or even alluring humans. Illusions designed to deceive and corrupt. So this aligns with the idea of spirits desperate to interact with the physical realm they no longer fully belong to, using deception and transformation as their tools. If the Nephilim existed, if their spirits became these potentially shape-shifting demons, and if their physical lineage somehow survived, where does that leave us today?
Oh man. Now I'm thinking about the pigs running themselves off the cliff.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, this sucks. Let's go become spirits again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. They got forced into those pigs.
Yeah.
It wasn't
And
let
they're
me
like,
choose.
fine, I'll kill the pigs so I can get out.
Yep, because that would be the loophole in that.
Yeah.
Is that thing is alive and they are in it, and now, which is crazy to think they inhabited all those pigs and all those demons were in one person.
Oh yeah.
Like, that's why that dude was so crazy.
Oh man.
Also, why he had crazy strength.
Right.
Because, like, they bound him in chains and he would break the chains.
And there are stories where people will occasionally kill a gray. And you know what happens after that? They haunt you for a while because they're mad. They don't
So
really care about having a physical. Like when they get out of the physical body, like they know they can just
they could find something else.
they can find something else, but it like annoys. Like the stories I've heard is it just like annoys them. Somebody will like shoot a gray. There'll be like a story where somebody will like shoot a gray, and then their house will be haunted for like a month because it's just like mad. It's just like, oh, you took away my body.
I assume this is like getting kicked out of a not great rental property.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you're mad about it. It's not the end of the world.
Like somebody wrecks your car, but you can just go get another car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably a better one.
Yeah.
Somebody messes up your 2003 Honda Civic and it's like, now you got to deal with finding another car. You weren't happy with the car, but it got you places.
I hate this.
So this is where the narrative leaving us today. This is where it gets it plunges deep into the heart of modern something theories that I'm trying not to say because again, that don't like a lot of the stuff we talk about. Many researchers and alternative historians propose that the Nephilim bloodline didn't just survive, it in fact thrived, hidden in plain sight.
Does it rhyme with Maserati? Okay.
It does. It does.
A little bit, yeah.
It's close. It's close. I think they followed you.
Paparazzi.
Yeah. So they argue that these bloodlines carrying the genetic and perhaps spiritual legacy of the Watchers gravitated towards positions of power. Think about the concept of the divine right of kings. Where did that idea come from?
Mm-hmm.
Why have royal families throughout history been so obsessed with bloodline purity? Could it be an echo of an ancient non-human lineage? And before we start shooting that one down, I have more examples. It's not just I know we can make an argument on like kings of like keeping power within the family.
Right.
That's one way to think about it. But theories also abound about just elite families, the so-called 13 Illuminati bloodlines. I think that's a fun way to say it. You hear about
Luma.
Yeah, you hear about names like Rothschild, Rockefeller, Merovingian,
Oh yeah.
and various European royal houses. Are that they could be the modern inheritors.
Wasn't like all the way up to World War One. Like when World War One happened, there's still all these kings and stuff, and like they were literally all cousins.
Yep.
It was like one family
Yep.
ruled. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, they were all pretty much all related.
That's great.
Because I mean that's how you like consolidated power is you'd have your daughter like marry another country's king, and now y'all are kind of linked,
Ooh.
and then their son will become king of that place. So yeah, if you did that long enough, eventually you everybody's kind of loosely, excuse me,
Yeah,
by
you're good.
cousins related.
That's crazy.
So proponents suggest these families aren't just powerful, they possess a hidden knowledge, a genetic predisposition towards control, and perhaps even maintain contact with the same fallen enemies and entities that started it all. Enemies would work there too. So they point to symbols prevalent among the elite, the all seeing eye, the pyramid, the serpent motifs, as nods to this ancient hidden heritage. They analyze architecture, corporate logos, and political structures, seeing evidence of a plan centuries, even millennia in the making. The goal, according to these theories, to fulfill the original agenda of the Watchers, to control humanity, to usurp divine authority, and ultimately to establish a global system. You'd call it a new world order,
You call it that.
where their bloodlines reign supreme, perhaps even paving the way for the return of their fallen masters or the rise of a final Antichrist figure. Himself, and I never really considered this, what if he's of that lineage?
Who?
The Antichrist.
Oh, yeah, I never thought of that.
Yeah, I was digging through stuff and it kind of hit me. I'm like, that would actually make a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
That the one who's going to unite humanity and control it all is actually from this original group that wanted to control it all.
Yeah.
So it sounds like science fiction, but proponents argue that the evidence is woven into the fabric of our history and institutions. They connect it to secret societies like the Freemasons, the Skull and Bones, and others, suggesting these groups act as custodians of the ancient knowledge and facilitators of the bloodline agenda. But the influence isn't limited to those supposedly in the bloodlines. What about those who actively seek contact with these entities? The forbidden knowledge brought by the Watchers, including charms, spells, and sorcery. Throughout history, humans have practiced magic and necromancy, rituals designed to communicate with the dead or summon spiritual entities. Could these practices be attempts, knowing or unknowing, to contact the very spirits Enoch described, the disembodied Nephilim? Necromancy, literally meaning divination through the dead, often involves rituals aimed at summoning spirits for knowledge or power. If demons are indeed the spirit of the dead Nephilim, the necromancers might be directly tapping into this ancient corrupting force. Occult traditions are filled with grimoires and rituals for summoning demons, binding them, or making pacts with them.
This is exactly what I've been looking into.
Is it?
This is exactly what I've been listening to stuff about.
Oh, so this is a good precursor to whatever you might be putting together.
Well, it's kind of a side, but like, it's the idea. I'm almost scared to talk about this. Some of the stuff I've heard from this guy makes me like scared to talk about this because like people tend to die when they go down like this road.
You know what? If this is the one that gets us,
It's
honestly, out of all the things we've talked about so far,
so it's just the theory of many, but like
we are in good health and happy in life. We did not unalive ourselves.
it's the idea that it's necromancy. It's these things looking for containers.
Mhm.
There's the whole idea that like the hybrid program that so like the missing baby syndrome,
Mhm.
changelings or whatever. So it's the idea that they take those, use them as containers. It's a way to like keep this bloodline going. It's a way to keep like these practitioners, who I guess we'll call them Nephilim. It's a way to keep their bloodline going like unnaturally. Like you just take people's fetuses and you like use them in experiments. It's very scary. And they're like a third thing. They're like not quite demons, but they're not quite angels, but you know what I mean? Like
Well, there's a lot of weird stuff happening at Planned Parenthoods, and there's been a lot of investigative stuff into the
yeah.
weird ways some of that stuff's chopped up.
Well, there's just like missing. There's people who have abduction experiences,
Yep.
and then they'll be an experiencer, and then one day they go in, they get like a hysterectomy, or they get like they go into an OBGYN, and they'd be like, "Oh, like when did you lose that pregnancy?"
Mm-hmm.
And they'd be like, "I was never pregnant."
Oh,
See what I'm saying?
yeah, I
And
met
that
somebody who experienced
changelings.
that.
You did?
You don't remember we talked about it? She was very into Egyptology and
And she was told she lost a baby.
Christian, but we're gods with little G.
That was her?
That was her. She had scars and
Yes.
yes,
Because what they do is
and she had things that like visited her at night.
that's what I've been that's what I've been looking into. They
Hmm.
come, they impregnate you, and that's not even the program. The program is they take that from you, and then now they have a vessel
Hmm.
that they can, and it's a way for them to keep inhabiting human body. It's like the way they procreate. They have to use us like a parasitic entity to procreate.
I don't know if she'd do the show or not
Bro,
because
I would love to read more into this and then talk to her.
I was. I don't
They
know.
used to call them changeling. It used to be like fairy lore. This would happen with people.
Well, this is similar to what people talk about with Star Children,
Yes.
where they have this child, they don't, and that's also how she described it. That kid is somewhere else,
Yes.
and it's
There's what the alien abduction things. They'll bring you on board and introduce you to your kid.
and that's how she sees it.
Yes. But the thing is, the secret is the thing inhabiting that fetus.
Oh, yeah.
It's a vessel for these things.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she uses a medium to talk to it.
That's a whole other thing.
But also is Christian.
Yeah, but it's also probably happened to her.
I know.
She just doesn't realize. Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we parted ways. This is weird dirt of mine to put out on the show.
Yeah, but
And I wanted to plan an episode, but I actually did not think that we were going to stumble onto this in this episode. I didn't really think about that.
that
Or I would have planned this whole thought out better. But remember when we talked about this?
Yeah.
After the whole thing happened?
Mhm.
Yeah, that was her. And that's exactly everything she described.
That's crazy.
And that she's super into like Egyptology. We're all working on we're gods with little g's. Like eventually we're gonna be gods, but also Jesus is real. He's our savior. It's a weird mix of a lot of different things, and it has a very Gnostic vibe to it because there's this secret knowledge surrounding the whole thing,
Right.
where it's you got to get your vibration up so that you can be on the god level.
But really, it's going to be the false. It's going to be the beast.
Yes, I do think that, and that's why I'm not sure if she'd ever talk to us about it because
And really, that's really not your kid. They created a vessel to inhabit.
Yes,
That's
she didn't know she was ever pregnant.
Yeah, because the kind of the Nathaniel Gillies thing is like they're parasitic and that's how they procreate, and like the thing inside that isn't like the soul that you normally have. Like your son has a soul.
Yes.
You and but like the thing inhabiting these things is a 10,000-year-old dead Nimrod, essentially, who just wants a new body.
It manipulated somehow your genetic biology to create
An empty vessel.
vessel.
Mm-hmm.
And then somehow takes it like in the night.
Yes. Yeah, it takes it, yeah.
And yeah, has like I can try and
They say, man, people on these ships, they'll see like vats of body parts. They'll see like a bunch of deformed fetuses. They'll meet their kid. Their kid will
back to the soul stealers, and that people would see their kids on those ships are clones of themselves.
Yes.
Same dude.
Which a clone of themselves could be their kid.
Same thing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
They're obsessed with having bodies.
I don't know how we never like. I guess we hadn't. Dude, I'm sorry. This is kind of mind blowing for me right now. Honestly, like I'm putting a lot of things that we've been poking at for years together right now. Just like,
right.
Oh, this is all same, but different, but still same.
And then they have all this technology. There's for as far as the kings and queens go, there's no wealth like sovereign wealth.
Yep.
Like the real money. I think even Elon the other day said something about like, oh, even Putin's way richer than I unless you have an army, you're not rich. These places are rich. And where do corporations come from? They all started as like charters from these kings to go out and do business. Like, you're going to monopolize the sugar trade. You're going to monopolize the spice trade. Okay, all these secret societies, when you get into them, they all end up talking about like the light bringer. They all have like a reinterpretation of Genesis that makes the snake the good guy.
Yep. A
So
lot of that.
if you're communicating, and what do these entities do? What happens with like these UFO programs? It just drops a sphere out of nowhere. It just drops some metal out of nowhere. You go out of Roswell and it's like, oh, we have this weird metal we've never seen. It's doing exactly the same stuff as the Book of Enoch. You're summoning it.
Look at these new things we've got for you.
Like this Jake Barber stuff. You communicate with it mentally. You're summoning. You're doing a ritual. And then it gives you metal. And then we use that metal to make like a stealth fighter.
Yeah.
So the governments of the world are like in communication with these things, and then all of these secret societies and all these corporations, like, they're gonna pay, corporation, when you really think about it, it's a legal entity.
Yeah.
So like it has to pay homage to like the government that created it. Like there's gonna be somebody. It's like when Facebook, after the 2016 election, they brought all those tech bros up to Congress, and they're like, why do you let this misinformation happen? Like, you let an election happen that we didn't want to let happen because you let people say stuff on your platforms, blah, blah, blah. Like, the government's in control, and that's where the real wealth lies. And those are the people in the secret societies, and the secret societies are all communicating with these things. It's like the Jack Parsons, JPL, Jet Propulsion, and then they're getting technology from these things. And then these things, in exchange, it's the whole story about Eisenhower meeting aliens, and they say, in exchange for your technology, we'll give you the abduction program.
Yep.
And the abduction program is for them to put these souls in bodies.
Well, it all comes back to pride for humans, because we're so hubris. We think the people that are doing this think that they're the ones getting the good end of this whole deal.
Yes. They think they got one over, or it's a fair deal.
Yep.
But then we immediately realized that we struck a deal that was bad. And then there's this whole avenue, this last thing I'll say, where our technology, be it AI or our cell phones, are like, we're ever connected. Now we're talking about like Neuralink and stuff like that. We're building a world that's made for them.
Mhm.
So
But we think we're winning.
We think we're winning, and we're like little monkeys with our little tools. And in
And they're
reality,
just beings that have been around for thousands of years.
we think we're summoning them. Yeah, we think we're summoning them, but really they're using us
Mhm.
to summon them, and in exchange they get bodies. And then our end of the deal isn't even our end of the deal, because we just use that technology to create a world that's ready for them to rule.
Yep.
We create the police state where they can have the control over 8 billion
Yep.
people. And when the Antichrist comes, and when the beast comes, and when the image of the beast and all that stuff, when they finally take off the mask, they're gonna be like these people with powers. And that's why they'll never admit the abduction program.
No.
All this disclosure stuff, they will admit we get technology. They'll admit it's summoning. They'll admit there's psychic elements. They will never admit where they come from.
Well,
It'll always be aliens, because
they're never going to admit what they're giving in exchange. Really.
no.
And that's what they're giving in
And you
exchange.
can't, yeah.
Because then it becomes, they look really bad when they admit that part.
Yes. And also you'd wonder why an alien would want that.
Yep. Because it's not an alien.
Because it's not an alien. It's a 10,000-year-old dead Nephilim.
I mean, we've done a lot of episodes that poked around. I mean, like, you go back to the old episodes, that is us. Like, if you've watched this and like the whole way through, you're literally watching us figure this out. Like, that's really what's happening.
Yeah.
That's why I don't ever pull anything down. Because there are episodes that I'm like, we didn't have enough information then.
Yeah, but it's a journey.
It is. It has been a journey, and for those who've been with it the whole time, like, thank you for that. Like, I hope this has advanced things for you too.
It's just scary because, like,
But I think everything you just said nails it. Like, this has oddly been a weird episode that I feel like is tying a lot of things we've been looking into for years kind of together in a very cohesive way. So again, back to people summoning demons, binding them, making pacts with them. Are these practitioners simply deluding themselves, or are they actually interacting with these restless, powerful spirits? And I would say, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. Yeah, they are. The danger, according to many traditions, is immense. These spirits are not benevolent guides, as the government would probably tell you they are. Like, oh, they're helping us. Look
That's
at all
what they'll
this.
say.
We page them and they show up and look, they give us all this cool stuff and they don't really want anything from us. It's really weird. Um, they're described as inherently destructive, deceptive, and hungry for influence or embodiment. Attempting to conjure or control them through magic, even for those seeking knowledge or power outside the supposed elite bloodlines, is playing with fire. Inviting possession, madness, or becoming, as I think many do, an unwitting pawn in their ancient agenda. It suggests that the conflict isn't just about bloodlines, it's also about individuals choosing to engage with these dark forces through occult means. So consider the forbidden knowledge aspect again. The Watchers taught metallurgy, warfare, and sorcery. Could this be an allegorical explanation for sudden leaps in human technology? As I think,
Yeah, we just hit.
again, Dennis didn't see any of this. You're right with me
It's
on
just
this.
yeah,
It's making sense. Leaps ahead in human technology, persistent allure of the occult. Some theories suggest that bursts of technological advancement or destructive ideologies are not purely human invention, but are subtly a guide or inspired by these ancient, non human intelligences, the fallen watchers, or the demonic spirits of their offsprings. They might point to the development of nuclear weapons, controversial genetic engineering, or the rise of transhumanism as a modern manifestation of this dangerous forbidden knowledge, pushing humanity down a path of self destruction or unnatural transformation. So, what are we left with? A confusing passage in Genesis, an elaborate myth from the Book of Enoch, or a terrifying glimpse into a hidden reality? The story of the Nephilim and the Watchers serves as a powerful archetype. The danger of forbidden knowledge, the consequence of divine beings interfering in human affairs, the original sin, the origin of the original evil, sorry, the danger of humans seeking power through dark pacts, and the idea of a hidden, powerful elite manipulating humanity from the shadows. Whether you believe the bloodlines persist literally, whether demons are shape-shifting Nephilim spirits, whether Tartarus holds bound angels, or see it all as a metaphor, the narrative resonates. It speaks to a deep-seated feeling that there are forces at work beyond our comprehension, that history is not as straightforward as we're told, and that an ancient conflict between light and darkness continues to unfold. Are the global elites descendants of fallen angels? Are demons the restless, transformative spirits of ancient giants? Is Tartarus a real prison beneath the earth? Can magic truly conjure these forces? These are questions that we can't definitively answer, but by exploring these ancient texts and the theories they've spawned, we gain a richer, stranger, and perhaps more unsettling perspective on the world around us. The mighty men of old may be long gone, but their shadow, the shadow of their creators, bound in darkness, and the influence of their restless spirits might just stretch longer and shift into more forms than any of us realize. So deeper back to Genesis 6:4. Let's a little bit deeper into that. So mighty men of old, or mighty men who were of old, the men of renown, who exactly were these figures? The text directly links them to the Nephilim, stating the Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterwards, when the sons of God went into the daughters of man, who bore children to them. These were the mighty men who were of old, the men of renown. So interpretations diverge here. Some see the mighty men as being the Nephilim themselves, the direct hybrid offspring, famed for their size, strength, and perhaps their tyranny. This aligns with the Septuagint, which is, if you don't know, the ancient Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible, translating Nephilim as gigantes, or giants, or gigantes, sorry, or giants. These weren't just tall humans, like you were saying. There's not like gigantism where it's like I
right.
got really long arms and really long legs. They were beings of a natural power, stature, carving out legacies through force. Think of the and back to you didn't think I was going to come back to the demigods. Let me get back to
Oh
the
yeah, yeah.
demigods. So think of demigods and heroes of ancient mythologies like Gilgamesh, Hercules, or the Titans. Could these legends be distorted memories of the Nephilim, the literal mighty men born from divine human unions? Uh, Josephus, the first century Jewish historian, or Josephus, sorry, um, certainly seemed to think so. Writing about angels marrying women and producing offspring who were unjust, despised, and they despised all that was good, and resembled the mythological giants in their audacity. However, another interpretation suggests that the mighty men might be distinct from, though related to, the Nephilim. Perhaps they were human leaders or warriors who rose to prominence during the time of the Nephilim, possibly empowered by their forbidden knowledge brought on by the Nephilim. Uh, whether they were directly aligned with them or
Mm-hmm.
they gained renown, fame, and perhaps for reasons rooted in their corruption spreading across the earth. Their might could have come from advanced weaponry derived from the Watcher's teachings,
Yeah.
like the making of swords, shields, and other things mentioned in the Book of Enoch, are through occult powers gained via sorcery, also taught by the fallen angels. This view separates the human heroes, albeit potentially corrupted ones, from the direct hybrid offspring, though both existed in that chaotic, world that was going on then.
Right.
So, regardless of the precise relationship, the text emphasizes their renown and might of old, placing them in a legendary, almost mythical past from the perspective of the Genesis author. They represent a period of profound disruption, power, and ultimately corruption that necessitated divine judgment in the flood. So, the source of much of this corruption traces back to the specific forbidden knowledge imparted by the Watchers. The Book of Enoch provides a startling detailed list. It wasn't just about mating, it was a deliberate transfer of celestial secrets. Azazel, one of the chief Watchers, taught humans metalworking, how to make swords, knives, shields, breastplates. This immediately escalated violence and warfare. He also taught the making of mirrors and significantly cosmetics, bracelets, ornaments, and the use of antimony for eye makeup, coloring tinctures. This is often interpreted as teaching vanity, seduction, and a focus on superficial appearance, distracting from spiritual matters. Other watchers taught sorcery, enchantments, root cutting, which is actually where pharmacology
That's what
and
I was gonna say.
yep, that's where that potentially comes from. Because you think about that, and I'm sure I don't know if we've ever had the direct conversation, but you think about like how do we figure out all these things? Like you combine this thing, and then it makes you feel better. It makes
Right.
you feel worse, or you get high off of it. Like you look at things like ayahuasca, where like they were out in the rainforest and they had like two plants that are in two different places. And like, what if we ate both these things at the exact same time?
Right.
Oh, we're gonna trip like crazy for the next 3 days and have godlike experiences.
Mm-hmm.
How did you figure that out? Unless something that knew to combine these two plants came by and was like, hey, that one over there, all right, we gotta like walk like 2 days that way. We're gonna get this other thing. And then
Right.
you're gonna eat both of them at the same time and watch what it does to you. See that frog there? Lick that frog. Like stuff like that. Oh, most of these mushrooms are gonna kill you, but that one right there, that one's a good time.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny to think like, oh, like people just ate stupid stuff and then they figured this out. That doesn't seem very likely.
It's
Because if you saw your buddy eat a weird mushroom and die, the odds of you going and eating another weird mushroom that looks
mixing
different,
it with something else. Yeah.
yeah, that makes even less sense. So, along with again with pharmacology and poisons and drugs, they taught them astrology, the signs of the constellations. This is where people get intermingled, I think, with like thinking that the stars somehow like you can have a very Christian oriented belief, but also like believe in astrology as well. It's like it's because the two kind of are related, but you're actually not supposed to mess with it, and it's because it's actually coming from this darker place that
Yeah.
and I don't know how to fully rectify that.
Mm,
You get what I'm saying though?
yeah.
Like it's we're not supposed to mess with it, but also like they do get things right sometimes.
Well, it's like I keep thinking it's like a different culture.
What do you mean?
It's it's like they gave you know how I was talking about earlier about how the technology they give us is creating a world with Neuralink and genetic manipulation. The technology they're giving us, the weapons, it's to create a world, even nuclear weapons to an extent, a world that they can more easily control.
Yes.
So it's like if human culture wasn't to smear this makeup on your face or to build a specific type of weapon or to trip on this specific drug or to use the stars in a certain way. It's like they're teaching us kind of like how a lot of the Old Testament laws were to differentiate the Jews from the surrounding culture.
A fair
Like
amount of
like
it was just don't get sick and be stupid and kill yourself in a weird
right,
way.
and some of it you could say was to keep them holy and
Yes.
separate from, you know, well, this could almost be like a form of that where this entity can kind of mark you out like your queen is going to wear this shade of makeup and
Hmm.
look this way. It's like you're dressing like you're getting your style from them,
Hmm.
you're getting your astrology from them, you're getting your and then they'll give you weapons so you can go kill the people who aren't like you. And it's like it's all a control system
Well,
down to the cultural. That's what I think when I think of like the makeup, right?
mhm.
Or like the ayahuasca, like
Well, with makeup, well, okay. What was the original sin?
pride.
Hmm.
Right. No, and I understand that aspect. But what I'm
So
saying
there's
is
some element of that. It's just I feel like part of it is just imparting this element of pride. Look at the secret to make yourself look better. Then you'll feel like
yes.
you're better than
I
other
fully
people.
believe that's part of it.
Like
Yes. I yeah.
I don't, and that's not to detract from your point at all. I think that's a lot of these things. There's some of it that's just like, yeah, it just looks like you're spreading pride in a weird way.
I fully think that's part of it. I just think it's a way to set people apart. You got the good weapons. Your higher class are going to look like this. You're going to look different. You're going to have this
Hmm.
purple shade of whatever. You're going to do your head up in this bind, and then we're going to have a medicine man, and they're going to talk to us when they take this mushroom, and then you're going to listen to him. It's like it's setting up a culture of control. It's setting up the government and it's setting up everything you would need to like differentiate people. Who's the leader? Who do you listen to? How do they enforce their power with which weapons? And it's a way for them to, and that's exactly what you would. That's what our CIA does when we take over. We figure out somebody who's like a figurehead,
Hmm.
and then we're like, we're gonna give you the good guns, and then we're gonna give you McDonald's, and we're gonna give you Hollywood, and then so it's like if you were this alien race, everything down to the makeup,
Hmm.
it's you're setting out your people so you can control a small group of people, and then you give them the tools to control the masses.
Yep.
It's just an efficient way because you can't go. It's so much more trouble to go person to person and corrupt them.
Yep.
You just create a culture of makeup. You create a culture of drug.
Well, and you're not God. You're not unlimited in your
No,
capacity. You got to
you gotta be
choose.
efficient.
Yeah, you got to be efficient how you do
So you
this.
give one guy the good sword, and you give him his wife the makeup in the mirror, and
Yep.
you go from there. And you give him best friend the mushrooms, and you're like, this is who's in charge. It's Merlin, and
Well, and that's why,
you know,
especially like if you know people that have done like a fair amount of like hallucinogens like that, they will. It's not maybe every time, but there are some that every time we'll talk about. Oh, it's a very spiritual experience. I experienced God.
yeah,
Like I connected with God.
right.
And it's like, did you connect with God or did you connect with this other thing that wants you to think they're God?
And they would just know because if their parents were spiritual beings, like you would see things different. You could just
Yes.
look at a molecule. You could look at a human brain, look at a molecule, and just know what it does.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, and we don't know, like with those angels, I mean, we have no record to know how long they were in creation before they decided to turn on God.
right.
Was this 1,000 years? Was this 1,000,000 years? Was this 50 billion years that
Yeah,
they had to
they go
study whatever he was doing and creating and seeing him and learning? Because they are a created being, so they had a start
right.
point.
But also
But they're learning the whole time too.
they're different. They don't have eyes, ears, nose, fingers.
Well,
Well, okay. Well, even if they do, they probably don't have the same senses exactly as
maybe
us.
not exactly. They can see things in a different way than us. That's, you know what? That's a curious point because they're sleeping with women. That's where this all starts. If this is all real, that's where they start. So they have some physical properties that happened when they
Something.
fell.
Yeah.
Like they are able to be in this realm.
but we don't know. We don't know what the higher realm's like. So, like, we
Yep.
don't know if you're able to condescend yourself to something physical, or if you exist maybe like in a fourth dimension, but you are physical. You just have like an extra dimension to you.
Maybe.
We don't know, like,
Well, even if you want to go biblical with it, like there's at times when angels have taken on physical forms
mhm,
and talked to Abraham.
yeah,
Like there's Moses in the burning bush. Like
theophanies.
then there's some people who see obviously crazy things where they're telling them be not afraid. I'm pretty sure that's the angel that's like the eyeball with the rings that's got eyeballs on it, and
Right.
that's where they're going like, don't be afraid. Look, I know
I know I got a lot of eyes.
I got a lot of eyes, and I'm sorry, but
I guess what I'm saying is we don't even have a scientific understanding of like when like, is everything energy? Is everything matter? You know what I mean? Like, we don't even really understand how many dimensions there are. Like, even in our own physical,
mm-mm.
our eyes can't see ultraviolet. We have to invent technology to do
We
something.
can't see all the colors.
So we don't know what.
We can't hear every frequency of sound that's around us.
So it's easy. This is one thing when churches get like, it's easy to say like, okay, we're physical, angels are not physical, but like,
Mm.
we don't know that. We don't know, like, we don't know what that realm is like. We don't know if they're
Oh, there's a Bible verse that talks about, be, oh, I'm gonna misquote it really bad, and I'm really sorry. I mean, correct me in the comments because I would like to know, and I'm gonna look it up as soon as we finish this. We talk about like be careful who you talk to and how you talk to them because
an
you might
angel.
be ministering to angels.
Yeah.
Like, man, I don't remember where that is,
We don't know what extra dimensions they inhabit or what they can see or
but we
what
know.
their knowledge is.
Well, we know God gives them, and I don't know if it's like on a like you get a lease for to go take a physical. I don't know how that works, but we know they can take a physical form. We know that the opposite side, the fallen angels, can take a physical form because they were able to sleep with human women,
They could just exist
which is why I kept
and
mentioning skinwalkers earlier because that more and more feels like that's some sort of a
yeah,
and I've started putting together. Dude, I have a Skinwalker episode that's I've been trying to put together for months now,
right.
and it's so all over the place, and it's so hard to confirm any of it that I haven't brought it to the show because I'm like, I don't know, some of this stuff's really out there, and like I don't know, like you only get like you get people that have claims of it, but it's always like one person, and it's like very different from anybody else's story
Right.
generally, and it's like hard to be like, well, there's this one, and maybe I'll just put something together at some point that's just like these are all the weird accounts that people think might be skinwalkers.
I,
But as we
I
go
guess
through
what
this,
I'm
I keep thinking that.
I guess what I'm just saying is I'm willing to suspend all disbelief and not really try to pigeonhole anything because we don't really know on what vibration these things are or the nature of physical reality. They could be 3 dimension plus. They could have the ability to just like form a body, do something, and then go become a plasma.
Well,
We don't know what these things are.
yeah, how long they can hold it for? I mean, the Bible talks about how there's war waging around us all the time that
Yeah,
we're not aware of.
maybe it's hard. Maybe they could just come long enough to impregnate somebody, or like we
Well,
don't.
you got these stories again, like back to the women that have like claw marks on
Yeah,
their inside, like something physical happened
poltergeist
there.
phenomenon. Yes, yeah. I'm reticent to say that they're purely spiritual because we don't know what that means, and we don't know.
I feel very definitive at this point. They are not purely spiritual. They're
There's a
able to
physical element.
manifest in
Yeah,
some physical form
in
in
some
some
way.
way.
Yeah,
I think even on this show, we've covered enough like demon and haunting stories where like people and like even police and like officials have seen things move, have
mhm.
seen these weird things happen that they are able to affect our realm.
And there might be a skill issue. They talk about like, okay, if there's a 4 dimensional figure. Okay, like if they're flat world or whatever. If there was a 2 dimensional civilization
Are we
living,
going Paper Mario with this?
yeah, if there was a 2 dimensional civilization, you know, and then you were to enter that realm, or I think Carl Sagan had a thing on this. What would it look like? It would look like if I were to pass this pin through to a 2 dimensional civilization, it would look like a 2D print. It would look like this for a minute, and then this for a minute, and then this for a minute, and then this for a minute.
No.
It would be the shape, but it'd be the shape transposed into your
Yes.
So like if these things are 4 or 5 dimensional, so there is a third dimension to them, that's just not all they are, then they could kind of coalesce, or they could figure out a way, a method to like interact with us and to appear a certain way, and to, but that doesn't mean that that's all they are.
Well, it's got to be. Well, I don't want to say it's got to be. It seems like I think you touched on it with maybe it's a skill thing. Maybe ultimately, if you believe there's a God who's ultimately in control of everything, they're only allowed to do certain things at certain times.
Mhm.
And what the reasoning is behind that, we don't know. I mean, like, it seems like. So I've been studying the Book of Job. It's pretty well agreed upon that Job was a real person that actually existed. These things happened to him.
Yeah.
And there's this conversation with God and the devil about, like, I'm going to go mess Job up and I'm going to prove that he doesn't really love you. So, like, is there some of that going on in some of this?
There's no
like,
way for us to know.
there's no way for us to know.
Yeah.
So that's why it's hard to, like, I don't know that we'll ever get to a point where we can say definitively this is what's happening 100% of the time, because I do
Not
think it's a
here.
very not on this,
Not in this lifetime.
probably not.
It's probably just beyond our. It's beyond what we're meant to be or know, to an extent.
Yeah.
It's just not our realm. Maybe when we're perfected, everything will be out in the open. But yeah, it kind of bums me out. But I know God has a plan. I'm kind of getting bummed out that we live in a world that's possibly controlled by 12,000-year-old.
Did we live in a fallen
Yeah,
world?
well,
Just
I know.
real
But
hard.
yeah, it hit me pretty hard. Just I've been thinking a lot about like the limitations on us recently, and then we're even more limited because of the fallen nature of things, and we think we're so awesome, but
Back to the original sin.
we're still figuring out which 2 things in a rocket make it go boom, and
Yep.
we think that makes us the biggest, baddest thing in the universe, and it's just, even if you're not a religious person, it's so clear that there's something going on that is beyond what we can even comprehend, and scares me because what we're gonna do when the UFOs come. We're gonna hand them the keys.
Yep.
Because we're gonna say they got all the shiny stuff and they can do all the fancy magic stuff.
So they're gonna do better than us.
Do whatever you want with us, and whatever you tell us about the nature of reality and the nature of God and our own soul, we're just gonna trust you because you got all the fancy tricks. And we just discount what is actually special about us being made in the image of God, and we value all the worst things, and it's just going to end up being our downfall, like it always has been. And there's nothing we can do about it. We just have to hope we are saved.
Well, there's definitely a way to know that.
Well, no, I know, but I'm saying not just mean salvation. I mean, like,
oh, okay.
We're just going to go through a time where it's like,
I was like, buddy,
I hope this isn't. I know.
It's Jesus.
Well, yes. I mean, like, literally saved from hell on earth, Because they're going to say these things are the height of... These things in their teaching and their culture are the height of creation, and give up the old ways and the superstition and really that's some of the best stuff about it.
Oh, and I think things we touched on, I mean, especially like the Red Heifer episode where we really went into the Book of Revelation.
Yeah.
Like, really, like, the more you tie all of this together,
you could just see how easy it's going to be.
Yeah.
How easy it's going to be for the devil to walk in, be like, look at the miracles I do, listen to the talking statue. Everyone's just going to bow. Everyone's just going to bow because it's fancy and shiny. And he's going to tell them, don't worry about the morality. Don't worry about that. And we're just so lost.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's hitting me hard. Keep going.
No, it's a good point. I do think the veil is very much getting lifted, and
you just see how easy. He's just going to be like, no shame. It's just going to play into all our bases,
I mean, we're seeing it. Like,
I know.
Good will be evil and evil will be good.
Yeah.
Like, we're seeing that play out. But yeah, so these fallen angels, to get us back on track with this.
Yeah.
Again, astrology, constellations, the knowledge of clouds with meteorology, the signs of the earth, geology and divination, and the signs of the sun, astronomy. So this wasn't just practical knowledge, it was often tied to divination, power, and manipulation, bypassing the intended divine order for acquiring wisdom. It represents a technological and occult acceleration, giving humans tools they were morally unequipped to handle, leading directly to widespread wickedness described in Genesis. Think about it: advanced weaponry, manipulative arts, occult powers, unleashed upon a world already leaning towards corruption. It's a recipe for disaster orchestrated by rebellious celestial beings. So let's revisit Tartarus, the prison of the Watchers. The use of this specific term in Second Peter is incredibly significant. It wasn't the common Greek term for the afterlife, Hades, or the Hebrew term, Sheol. Tartarus is a Greek thought. In Greek thought, was as far below Hades as the earth is below heaven, a place of utter darkness, confinement, and punishment reserved for primordial beings and cosmic rebels like the Titans. By using this term, Peter is emphasizing the severity of the Watcher's sin and the depth of their imprisonment. Enoch describes it similarly as a desolate, chaotic place outside the normal order of creation, a prison specifically made for these rebellious stars or angels. So this raises profound questions. And if these powerful beings capable of teaching humanity world altering secrets are truly bound in such a place, what does that mean? Are they completely inactive? Or uh, can their influence still seep out? Some interpretations suggest that while the Watchers themselves are bound, the knowledge they unleash continues to corrupt, and perhaps their imprisoned state generates a kind of dark energy or influence that can still be tapped into by those who seek it. Furthermore, the distinction is crucial. Only the leaders who descended on Hermon are said to be in Tartarus. Again, back to not all of them,
Right.
just that little group that led all of these fallen angels. Again,
So you just assume the other fallen angels have similar knowledge.
they have similar knowledge, but they had leaders.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we see that, like, even if you just want to go biblical with it, we see a hierarchy in angels. Like, we definitely know there's archangels who seem to lead and have special roles. Like, there's different divisions, there's ones that do this and do that. Um, So, what about other fallen angels or the demonic spirits of the Nephilim? They are not described as being bound in the same way, leaving them to free roam and influence the world. Now, consider the nature of those roaming spirits, the disembodied offspring of the Watchers and human women. Enoch 15 states they are called evil spirits upon the earth, and the evil spirits proceed from their bodies. Because they originated from a hybrid nature, part spiritual and part physical, they possess an intense craving for the physical realm they lost in the flood. This craving is often cited as the driving force behind demonic possession, the desire to inhabit a physical body again. And that concept of transformation, the metaschizomotazotoi, oh, I hope I don't have to say that again. While this term itself might be obscure or debated in specific theological contexts, the idea of demons being able to alter appearances or create illusions is widespread in demonology and folklore across cultures. If Nephilim spirits are inherently chaotic, born from an unnatural union, it's theorized they might retain a degree of instability or malleability in their spiritual form. This can manifest as illusions, which creating false appearances to deceive humans, appearing as angels of light, deceased loved ones, or terrifying monsters. Shape shifting in possession, causing dramatic physical changes in a possessed individual, contortions, facial distortions, animalistic behavior, which reflects the chaotic spirit within. And then environmental manifestations like poltergeist activity, apparitions, attempts to interact with and manipulate the physical world despite lacking a body. This potential for transformation makes them incredibly dangerous deceivers. They aren't just tempting thoughts, they might be capable of presenting false realities or manipulating perceptions directly. This ties into warnings in many religious traditions about testing spirits, not believing every supernatural manifestation.
Mm-hmm.
Do you need a quick break?
No.
Okay. Uh,
No, I'm just physically uncomfortable
Okay,
from hearing this.
do we need to stop for a second?
No.
The idea of surviving bloodlines is perhaps the most provocative aspect of Nephilim theories today. If Nephilim weren't completely wiped out, or if the genetic spiritual taint could reappear, where might it manifest? This is where theories diverge wildly, often entering the realm of deep speculation, but they frequently point towards figures of power and influence, like royal bloodlines. Like I said, some researchers trace genealogies, particularly European royalties, looking for anomalies or connections back to ancient figures or regions associated with giants in biblical or extra biblical accounts. They might point to legends surrounding the Merovingian kings of France, supposedly descended from a sea creature, or analyze heraldry and symbols for hidden meanings. This idea is that a subtle genetic or spiritual legacy grants these families inherent authority or even supernatural abilities, maintained throughout intermarriage. Secret societies, groups like the Freemasons, the Rosicrucians, or the supposed Illuminati are often implicated. Theories suggest these societies preserve the ancient Watcher knowledge and actively cultivate or protect Nephilim bloodlines, using their influence to steer global events according to an ancient agenda. And then there's elite families beyond royalty. Certain powerful banking, industrial, and political families are frequently named in these theories. Their immense wealth and influence are seen not just as the result of ambition, but as evidence of an underlying and potentially non human advantage or heritage passed down through generations.
Or at the very least, they're in contact with these things.
Yes. So it's vital to reiterate that these are theories, often built on interpretations of symbols, myths, and selective genealogical research. However, the persistence of these ideas speaks to a deep seated suspicion about the true nature of power and the origin of the elites.
Mm.
And that's where I'm going to leave it, Dennis.
Wow. Great work.
I
I feel like we could talk about this for 8 hours.
we definitely could. There will be more episodes, which is why I felt like I was like, we've touched on all these things, but then I started hitting all these different weird angles, and I'm just like, yeah, we haven't talked about it like this before, though. Like connecting a lot of these things. Like I said, like as I was doing this, I was like, this is connecting so many different things we've talked about over the years.
Uh-huh.
And then I'm glad I pushed it forward. I hope it came out well and was coherent and like made sense.
Oh, we went off the rails.
We did, and I kind of knew we were going to do
Yeah.
that. And I
I hope it
anticipated
made
some of that.
sense. I hope it makes some sense to
think
the
it did.
audience. I think we're getting closer to the answer.
Dude, it feels like that, right?
Yeah, which freaks me out.
Yeah, that's why I was like, "Do you need a break?" I thought,
Yeah, no. No, I'm just like, I just
I saw your body language. Like,
I don't have to go to the bathroom.
that's kind of what I thought. I'm like, does
No,
he need some water?
I don't
Does
need
he
to take
to
a walk.
pee?
No, I just hurts to hear this and to know it's true.
And I'm probably taking it a little better because I knew it was coming.
Yeah, I mean, listen and watch a lot of stuff about this, and I feel like a lot of people are converging on something like this, and
I've had this one in pocket for about a month.
yeah,
I've been trying to like figure out exactly what I want to do with
it also means that a lot of people have been throwing around the year 2027.
2027 and 2030, depending on what you're looking
A
at.
lot of people throwing that around, and if all disclosure is self-disclosure of these things, it just makes you think about how it's becoming all public right now.
It's like it's gearing up for something.
Yeah, it's time for it's time for the big reveal.
It does kind of seem like that.
It's time for the show to start.
Yes.
We've spent this time building this type of world with our little select group of people. We had our little societies. We had contact with your governments, and it's like now it's time for the people to know. And it's like, oh, that's not good.
Yeah,
It's time for them to meet there. We gotta talk. We gotta see if we can talk to your friend.
I can reach out to her. I don't know how receptive she's going to be.
Even if she could do, dude, if we did a Zoom, we could change her voice, we could just put an AI little generated photo of a little blacked out woman on there. We could knock her voice down 4 notes.
I don't know if that's the issue. It's so much just me and her, I think, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, here's the other alternative: just write down everything you remember.
I could, and
Give it to me.
well, you
I'll
have
go
a very
research
well. We can talk about it off mic.
the missing baby thing. We gotta get into
You
that.
and me talked about it pretty extensively on the phone, and you have a really good memory. So I feel like if you think
Yeah.
about it, you can probably pull back up a lot of that conversation.
At that time, I was really big in the aliens or fairies thing.
Oh, fairies are another weird thing. No, that's a different demonic thing I think that's happening.
I think that's just a different culture way of describing this.
Maybe.
Because I think we all agree they come from the ocean and underground. They're not from space.
I could dude, at some point we could do a Disney episode on all the weird things
Oh,
that they
man.
have, because the fairy is there that's helping Peter Pan steal children. And if you look into what the mythology and everything is with fairies,
They
and they're
steal your baby.
yes, they do.
That's what I'm saying. And but at that time, what I'm saying is back that many years ago, when you were telling me that stuff, I was looking through a lot of this not through the demonic lens. I was looking at it through the third thing, Jinn fairy lens, kind of. And so I might not have clocked it in a way that stuck with me. And where I'm kind of going now with this. It's a very dark reality.
Yes. Yes.
That's my final
Yeah, that's your final
thought, yeah.
Well, thank you all so much for listening. Again, like, share, subscribe. Please share this episode if you loved it. Find us on, so Instagram is Cryptic Accounts Clips. Twitter, or X now, is Accounts Cryptic. Everything else is just Cryptic Accounts. If you just go to the website, crypticaccounts.com, you can find links to everything. And if you want to support the show, those are great ways to do it. If you've got extra money and you want us to help us to make it so that we can do more of this, please do that on the website. We would appreciate that very much, because we would love to do more of this. So thank you all so much for listening, and we will be back next week. Love you, Dennis.
Love you.